life, right? So, you know, yeah,
Absolutely. Okay.
wherever you want to go with it, man. I'm always down.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start it up then. Welcome to another episode of Knowledge to Currency, where knowledge is power and currency is king. I'm your host, Senator Porter, and today I have the OG, Oscar.
What's up, my
Welcome
man?
to the show, my friend.
Glad to be here, brother. It's a long time waiting.
Yeah, man. It's pretty cool because as time has gone through, we got a lot of mutual friends
Yeah.
in our network.
Yeah.
But man, you're one of the people that resonate with me because we're around the same age.
Yeah.
We have a lot of the same thoughts,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for this episode. So let's kind of go what we were talking about earlier. Like, how'd you end up in San Diego? That's how I like to start every episode.
Oh man, I'm gonna try to make this long story as short as possible. But so I'm originally from LA, and born and raised out there. Even though I spent my high school years in the Inland Empire.
Okay.
Parents right out of high school, which was '93. I think we graduated right around the same time, right?
Yeah, 94.
Nice. So yeah, I graduated in '93. My parents moved to San Diego, and I moved right back into LA, like Whittier, Pico Rivera area, and got into lending in '95.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I got into lending at 95 and kind of worked my way through the industry. And in 2000, actually July of 99 to be exact, July of 99, I came down to visit my parents in San Diego and then drove back that Sunday. When I was in Long Beach, I got into a really bad car accident.
Oh no.
Yeah, so yeah, really bad car accident and multiple cars. That was kind of a blessing in disguise. Now, granted, it took a few years for me to kind of figure that out. But yeah, I ended up shattering both my ankles, shattered my foot, my toes, my knee, broke ribs, shattered my front teeth. I almost lost my eye because I had a massive gash. I still have the scar. And so, yeah, I went from like this fast-paced life in my 20s to a dead halt at 25. And looking back, we're literally just talking before we came on, we were young at 25, but at the time we were 25, at least in my world, we were older. I saw something where it said, we come from the age, we're at 10. We felt like we acted like we were 30.
Yeah.
And in our late 40s, we still act like we're in our 30s. So that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a blessing in disguise. I came down. It was basic control delete, right? Kind of like a reset. Hit rock bottom and thought I wanted to come back to LA. When I did, like a week into it, I realized I had no business and I had to start over. And I just felt that it was God's calling for me to restart my life and my business in San Diego. And, I just hit the ground running, man. I just hit the ground running. And, well, that was 2000 now, right? 'Cause it took me about 6 months to recover. So, yeah, that's my journey into San Diego. And, that came with its successes, trials, and challenges, which, of course, was all part of growth. But I'm also glad and blessed that happened earlier in my life, right? Unfortunately, I hear stories of men that are experiencing it a much later, 50s, 60s. So I'm very blessed that I was able to grow through that because, it's easy to get stuck, right? Mentally. So yeah, that's what got me to San Diego. Love it here. This is my hometown. I've been here since 2000. So that's 24 years-ish, right?
Okay.
My wife and I love to travel, but we always say we're very blessed to love to come home,
Okay.
right? This is a great place to be.
Especially you living in Rancho Santa Fe, so it ain't bad, brother.
20 minutes from the coast,
Right.
20 minutes here in the hills.
Right.
Yeah, we can't complain, man. We're very blessed here in San Diego.
Yeah,
you're from out of state too, right?
Yeah, so my journey, I moved from Texas to Minnesota to Florida to San Diego.
Yeah.
So, and as I've been like out in the market more, meet more people, that's the common story. Like people will say, "Hey, I came here for work," or "I came here on vacation." One of my friends, his friend from college moved out here, and he came to visit his friend, and he just said, I'm staying
I'm
here,
staying.
not moving
Yeah,
back.
it's rare. It's rare to run into people that are San Diego natives, and it's that, right? Military, school. I came down to party and met the love of my life, and decided to stay here. Everything, right?
Right.
That's one of the many reasons why I also love San Diego. Right? Are the people.
Yeah.
We're a melting pot of just different people, different cultures, different foods. Aside from weather and environment, and we're 20 minutes from anywhere, right, within the city.
Mexico and everything. I agree.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, so you were doing residential lending before, and that's was your first. How'd you get into that?
So when I first got into the industry, I was very fortunate that the guy that brought me on played a big role, almost a fatherly role within the industry. Big mentor, Steve, and he brought me on. He brought me on as an assistant. Turns out I ended up being part of a team. This was 95, so you're picking up the tail end of like the early 90s, late 80s foreclosures. So we're part of this REO division. We're picking up REO properties that we had to like finance quick, right? And back then, deals didn't close as quick as maybe we were closing them. Escrows back then were taking 60 days, and that was very normal, especially like FHA and VAs, right, back in the day.
Right.
And I learned fast. I was also very young, so I was very hungry. I was very coachable. Steve instilled in me that, to remain coachable, and that's stuff that I preach to this day, is, remaining coachable and having the work ethic, because, a lazy person will always find an excuse. And coachable, we just never stop growing. We just never stop learning. And that's also the beauty, not only of life, but just within the industry. And within a year, I think I made the choice and saying like, this is where I want to be. And I mean, to be frank with you, at that age, at 25, actually wrong. I was 21 when I got in. I'm looking at the dudes walking in. Dudes are looking. This is when you were a banker, right? You had a double-breasted suit, which I'm glad that's coming back. Double-breasted suit, the nice shoes polished up, and the cufflinks, and they're driving up in their S-Class Mercedes, and I'm like, man, these dudes look sharp. I want to be like these guys, right? That was our motivation back then, right?
Absolutely.
And it had a briefcase. That was a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Walk into a room with a briefcase, right? I'm like, I want to be that guy. So then, of course. Absolutely. That was that era, right? And yeah, I mean, I was poking, all these guys' brain, and to me, they were like older, and looking back, they were probably in their late 20s, early 30s. You know what I'm saying?
But they looked the part.
They looked the part. And so, yeah, great guys. Again, we were in an office where these guys were in a cubicle, and oddly enough, I want to say 90% of them ended up growing into these leadership roles.
Nice.
And so I can say that I was fortunate to have these leaders right around me and share with me what they were making, right? How much you making a year? I had no problem asking people, right? I was fearless. How much you making? How many deals is that? All right, like how many? So in my head, I'm like, I need to close this amount of deals, and that was the motivation, right? So I get into the industry. And it was all about the cars and the watch, and and it was like that for a few years.
Right, that's how it starts.
Yeah.
Let's kind of touch that though.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's odd that people tell you don't talk about what you make or how you make, but I think with your friends and people that motivate you, you should want to know that stuff so that you can reach another level.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a gap.
Right?
I think there's a gap. It's you have different conversations at different levels, and that never changes even now, right? I'm always kind of looking up and seeing, the guys and gals that have done great things, or I should say not only have done great things, are doing great things, but more importantly, the story. The story of the trials and tribulations, and because there's a lot of growth in that. We have a tendency of thinking you see the guy and gal looking sharp and or in some cases not even that, but you don't realize what their background is.
Oh yeah.
And until you hear people's story, and that's what I love, right? And then I started realizing that I'm living my story, right? And looking back in areas, 2008, the the accident was kind of my first fall,
Okay.
right? Which was in, we'll say 2000. And then it was the glory years of the early 2000s going into 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Made a lot of money, all ego driven, made a lot of mistakes, and then lost it all.
Okay.
And then it took me about maybe 2 years or so to
Come back.
figure it. And I wouldn't say it wasn't the full comeback.
Okay.
It was a process for me.
Yeah, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, looking back and realizing that I did put a lot of value, or I should say, I did put my value in the things that I had.
Okay.
Right, I lost it, so then I had to really pivot. I had to go deep, and figure out like, okay, this is not the person I want to become.
Yeah.
Long term.
In society, especially right now with the, like the alpha male, and you need to be this, and
Yeah.
the women are here, and
Yeah.
like that's with red pill, blue pills pushed a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, the real goal is to not want anything. Like you should be good in your skin. You should be good without to wash the cars. You can like that stuff, but you should just be happy being you, and people should like you for you, not
Yeah.
what you have or what you can do for them. And what happens in society is, even with me, I start to see some people want to get to know me for who I know,
Mhm.
and they don't want to get to know
Mm.
me. And it's not a monetary; it's a transactional relationship.
Yeah. No.
And that's what you want to.
I have been in a space, and it takes work.
Right.
I have been in a space where, call it my age, call it what I've gone through, well, I'm sure it was all of it,
Right.
where I rather connect with you for you.
Right.
And if there's opportunity for us to do great things together, then great.
Right.
Other than that, I like to you just know great people doing great things in
Right.
life. That doesn't mean a number financially. That doesn't I don't get driven by that anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to go back because there was the other side of that story.
Sure.
When we talk about like the nice cars and things, I never quite understood when people would share that or hear the stories of the fear of success.
Okay.
I never understood that.
Okay.
And I can honestly say, I think I went like a good solid 2 years plus where I was in that.
Okay.
Again, until I got past that, looking back, I realized like, wow, that was me. What did that look like? It was one of those things where, again, you hit this peak and you lose everything. And it's like, finally you start getting some traction and, I lost the watch, everything. And I remember I had this the last watch, right? I'm holding on to this one. It was the big emergency Breitling. I did not feel worthy wearing it.
Oh, so you ashamed to have it on?
I'm like, I don't, because I wasn't making the amount of money at that point to justify wearing the watch, even though I earned it prior.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I felt I was a little tainted in what that looked like. So I put it away.
Okay.
And I noticed in my conversations, whether they were intentional or not, it was like, if I can only make this much and I can just do this, I am safe. This is good. This is good. And then I started looking at my environment, the people that were around me, and the conversations were the same. Good people, by the way.
Sure.
Great people. But I know that God always kind of made me a grower at heart,
Okay.
right? And he changed my heart in a sense where it's like, you know what? I've always liked a nice car,
Yeah.
right? I'm a car guy. Not everyone's going to get it.
Right.
We're in the world also on social. We said like, t-shirt, and granted, I'm a t-shirt and the jeans, right? T-shirt and jeans, like this multi-millionaire t-shirt and jeans. And it's like, yeah, dude, the jeans are like $1,000 or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyways, I was in that space and it took me saying like, no, like, it's okay. It's okay. The difference was my value was not in what I had.
Mm-hmm.
The value was in me, meaning this can go away,
Yeah.
right? This can go away. The value is still in me.
Yeah.
My
oh,
worth
yeah.
is still in me, not on what I wear or what I drive.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think that's a
absolutely.
pretty cool spot to be in. And
Mhm.
I've been there for a handful of years now. And then the other layer, which is what we're getting into, is really protecting our space and getting a clear understanding of who I want to hang around with. My time is very valuable. I have married. I have young kids, and a big thing to me is being very present with my kids emotionally, right? That means putting my phone down and knowing when to say, this is family time right now.
Right.
Like we were talking just before, like this is date night, right? It's a non-negotiable, right?
Right.
Everything else falls into place. And here's the thing, when I'm doing business, or I should say doing life with the right people, everyone gets it. I don't have to sell you on, hey, I'm available 24/7 and I jump through hoops, and nah, man, we're just two cool guys doing cool things. How can we help each other? How can we sharpen each other? Let's have those type of conversations. How do we become better men, right? How do we become better fathers? How do we become better businessmen? I don't care what type of business we're in. How do we grow in these spaces so that we're empowering other men or other people in general, right? Like that's what gets me fired up. Let's have those types of conversations, right?
So that really touched me in what you said, because working at a bank, there's a lot of transactions that would happen, and it's a good and a bad thing, because some people, we talking to 60 people. I worked at a call center first. So we're talking to 60 people a day about mortgages, the same conversation over and over. But that's somebody's biggest asset, and they're talking to you about it. So you got to take it serious. You got to listen to their highs, lows, their concerns, whatever, to help them make a financial choice. But what it also taught me is that every conversation or every transaction isn't for me. So if you talk to somebody and they're from the East Coast, like I remember one time this lady, she was racist, and she called on her phone and she asked me my name. She asked to speak to someone else. I was like, okay, no problem, ma'am. I transferred her to someone else. So then my manager, he was overhearing the conversation. He goes, are you everything good? Like, I know that lady was racist. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm going to take another call. Yeah. He's like, if you need a minute, because I know she said some things. I was like, no, I don't need a minute. Not every situation's for me. And that gave me that power, in my late 20s to know if it's not for me, I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to pry my way into this room or this group, because what we start to find out is some of these rooms you don't want to be in the room.
No, and that's okay.
You do.
Yeah.
And you get in there and you're like, whoa, these dudes are weird. These people are weird.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing to say. And to with what we do for work, a lot of people look at us as a car salesman, or they look at us as like, not on the same level as an attorney, even though you're saving people's financial situation. Like they could be terrible debt. You help them consolidate the debt. You help them get school loans paid for, or you help them pay for their daughter's wedding, or whatever the case may be. You take that financial stress, and I've had people cry and people like
I love
hug
those
you
stories.
and all those different things.
Yeah.
So what I did is I started looking at my job more serious. Like, no, what I do is important. I'm helping people with financial literacy. I'm helping people understand the game that these big corporations are playing, and make what I do very well is simplify difficult concept stuff. Like they have no idea that he could be one of my friends is a doctor. He just doesn't give finance. He's like, but he does well. He does at the highest level. So he'll ask me a question about something, and I'll explain it. He's like, man, the guy I'm talking to can't explain it that way. And I'm like, yeah, well, I guess it's a give. I don't know what you call it, but what was the next point I was going to make?
Yeah, I want to chime in on that, because you're touching on a really good point. And by the way, kudos to you as far as like not getting offended.
Yeah.
You did that in your 20s. I didn't figure that out until my 30s. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Where people would do things before, or I felt discriminated or stereotyped, and I'd get pissed.
Oh yeah.
I'd get mad. Sometimes I'd express it. Sometimes I didn't. But until I got wiser in that space, I started realizing where you were, is that it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with them and their story, and really kind of understanding, like I almost got to the point where I felt bad for those people. I'm like, man, that's pretty ignorant, right? That you would think that or think this or whatever the case is. So that took growth. So kudos to you there.
I appreciate
but
it.
I think that's a value in any space, right? And I know in our space we experience it quite a bit, and I'd love to see more of it. where we're truly, everyone talks about value. Everyone talks about it. Well, my thing is show me the evidence, right? Show me the evidence, not your story, but where you've impacted someone else. Because we always have a tendency of making it about ourselves. And that's okay, because I can share some stories that I was impacted because there was this emotional connection. And that was my fuel. But, hearing it from someone else would fill my cup and really kind of understanding and adding value versus selling. I'll go back to, I don't remember what year this was, but this really kind of helped shed light on what I was already trying to do. There was a doctor that, and that could be very transactional too, right? Because it is a business, no matter how we look at it. Nurse goes in, takes your data, doctor comes in, what do you have? Boom, 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 next appointment. And it was kind of like this. And I remember I sat with the doctor and I just felt like I just had her undivided attention. It was the body language, how she sat, eye to eye. She wasn't standing over me. She sat down on a bench and we're like, let's talk, asking all the right questions. And I even told her, being that we're in this industry, I was like, I don't think I've ever felt so like if we're the only two people in this hospital, right? And she knew that I was young. She knew what I did. And she was open to share words of wisdom outside of her being a doctor.
Nice.
And literally she touched on the point that you touched on. She was like, Oscar, I needed to understand that I may see 30 patients a day, right? There are some people that walk into this room that haven't seen a doctor in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
This is my opportunity. And she shared a little bit about her story and what motivated her to become a doctor. Nice. So it was deeper than that.
Yeah.
To me, those are the cool stories. And what did that come down to? Not her degree, her character.
Yeah.
It was her character. So it's not the attorney. It's the character, which leads us into doing business with the person, because the character is always going to show. Right? Not when things are great.
Yep.
Because everyone's good when everything's good. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's the nicest guy. She's a sweetheart. Everything is good when things are great. Our character is going to show when things get a little bit difficult or they don't go your way.
Yeah.
And that's going to show me who I'm working with, right? And then at that point, you can decide, is this someone I want to continue to do business with or not? It's funny, as I'm saying this, a thought that came to mind, my dad would share with me when it came to dating, right? And I remember I was in my early 20s. Is like, man, you want to know who you're with? Get her upset. You want to know another way of knowing who you're with? Get her drunk.
Okay.
You want to know who you're really with? Get her upset while she's drunk.
That's actually really funny.
And it's hilarious, right? But there's some truth to that.
Oh, for sure.
All right. I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. And I was a lot younger, and I think I remember this story like 15 years ago, but that's really in line with like character, right? They say that alcohol sometimes can be that truth serum.
Sure.
But that's the beauty of it. I think that with age, and you don't have to wait till you're, we're in our late 40s. You don't have to wait till your late 40s. I mean, I see some young talent, and we're talking about young talent coming into the industry, which I love to see. Young entrepreneurial mindset that are learning what we learn. Where I'm at in my 48, these guys and gals are learning in their late 30s. I'm like, that's the beauty of it, right? I love seeing that. But there's always going to be room for growth. That's what keeps us young.
Yeah, give them people shortcuts, because I mean, I've had great mentors in my life, but sometimes you're going down a path that your parents have never gone down before. You can't go to a friend. So how do you find? Let's ask that. How do you find someone to mentor you, especially at the age you're at now? I don't feel I know it all, but I still look for guidance from the outside. So how do you find good mentors? You'd
be surprised. I mean, it's not. And again, going back, it's not an age thing, right? Yeah. I mean, I have great men around me. I try to really kind of look more into like where we're at in life, right? So guys that are fathers, that have had their challenges in life, they're going to come at you from a different angle, right? Versus the just a straight up no fear, balls to the wall type of attitude, which I had, but it's more taking calculated risk where I'm at in the stage of my life.
Yeah.
But also having conversations with people that are good at telling me if I'm doing something wrong,
Right.
you know, and not just be the raw guy, and really understanding and saying like, hey, if you and I are having that conversation, be like, man, here's what you need to do, versus me telling you like, look, I understand you. I went through that. Let me share with you what I went through. This is what worked for me,
Yeah.
right? And from that, you'll be able to decide, okay, I can pinch some of that and put that to work.
Right.
So, for me, I have my core 3 guys that, we sharpen each other, challenge each other, check each other. And we're all, doing great things in life and have that hunger for being better,
Right.
for being better. That's my biggest thing. And again, that doesn't come with an income. But there's some parallels there, no matter how you look at it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's just, and they have, anytime I run into just like older guys, right? Much older guys. These are guys typically that I'm hanging out with, much older guys. But I love picking their brains, man. I that doesn't stop. But I'll do that. Like the younger guys in their 30s and early 30s. I'm like, so what are you doing? What's driving you right now? And I want to know if they've struggled at any point. And because they may have been fed by their parent or a mentor. I want to hear like, so what did you learn from that when someone shared that story, so that you don't fall into that same bucket? Because granted, you're going to make your own mistakes, right?
Yeah.
But if you got people pouring into you and sharing where they failed in these spaces, take that in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value in that, right? Again, going back, I wasn't always as coachable, right? I was very ego, had a lot of pride. It was all about me, where it was like I was the rah guy, and but even then I was fighting my own demons, right?
Sure.
And I realized like, hey, I'm not growing as a person.
Right.
Financially, you could have been growing, but I
Sure.
was not growing as a person. And I think it needs to start there. Like we need to grow, on all aspects of life, right? Spiritually, physically, mentally, financially. I mean, that is a component of it, right? It's not the one on top, but it is a component, right? Because it opens doors. But yeah, just having that mindset of like, how can I be better today than I was yesterday?
I got 2-part question. This is gonna get you brownie points at home. What's your favorite things about being married, and your favorite things about your wife?
Woo! There's
You
so
don't have
many.
Yeah, I know there's so many. You don't have to list them all. If you want to do a top one,
Look, I
top
think
three.
we complicate it more than we should,
Okay.
and we also have a tendency of romanticizing it more than we should.
Okay.
The reality is, I mean, there's nothing better than to do life with someone. That's the right person. And life, when you understand that life is gonna come with challenges, one of the things that my wife and I continue to learn, because we fall short,
Sure.
we make mistakes, but we choose each other.
Okay.
Every day. And we've committed ourselves not only for each other, but for our kids, right? If we were in our flesh and it was a me thing, and we see it in society, like I'm out. I'm out, right?
Not perfect.
There's no
every day.
doubt, we've all had relationships in the past, and God had different plans for me, and they were great people. We just were not compatible, but I'm married now,
Mhm.
and we made a commitment, and it starts there, and our in the center of what we do is our faith. So as long as I'm pursuing God, she's pursuing God in her walk.
Yeah.
We always talk about kind of like the pyramid, right? Where we have the husband on this end and we have the wife on this end. The further, and God's up top, the further we are away from God, the further we're away from each other.
Oh, got you.
And I've noticed that the closer that we are in our walk with God, what happens?
You
It brings us closer together.
Okay.
So it no longer becomes, you need to do that, because then it's conditional. You need to fix that. You need to do this, versus how do I bring it and surrendering that to God? Patience, right? They say, be careful what you pray for.
Mhm.
When you pray for patience, God doesn't give you patience. He gives you opportunities to be patient,
Yeah.
right? Right? That's no different than, you know, wanting something that we want. The question is, have you become the person to earn that?
Right.
Right. But yeah, for us, it's just really having that commitment in ourselves. One of the things that I love, one of the many things that I love about my wife, is her heart. You know, it's just her heart. My wife is beautiful, man. There's no doubt. You know, she's a beautiful gal. But it's her heart. You know.
But you know that was the one for you right away?
Oh man. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah,
Interesting story. Interesting story. So, you know, I lived downtown, and I got out of a 10-year relationship, and then hunkered down in training, and then my coach is like, "Dude, go be single." I went to go be single for 6 months, and realized it just wasn't for me. I'm like, I had done that in my 20s, and after 6 months and having a few walks of shame, I realized like this is not what I want. What I always wanted was a family,
Okay.
a wife and kids. And I knew that I was not doing the things that were in line with that.
Okay.
So in that, I was also growing in my spiritual walk, you know, connecting with God. I grew up Catholic, and I really started to get an understanding of having a relationship, and it's not a religion. It's more your individual relationship with God. And in that, I fasted women. I said, I'm not dating. I'm not doing anything. I'm fasting women. But in that, I had a prayer, right? And in that prayer, I was like, all right, God, like, you know, my heart, you know, I want a family, but if it's in your will for me to be single, just use me. But if you have someone for me, give me the eyes to see. Give me the eyes, you know, give me the eyes to see her.
Right.
Give me the eyes to see her. Because here's reality. As men in today's society, we can easily be distracted.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you can admit it or not, we can easily be distracted. So I didn't want to be distracted. So with that said, you know, I was going to church, and I remember I had a few people. I'm like, man, you need to be community, right? You need to be surrounded around other Christians in the beginning for your growth.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. So then I started, you know, connecting with people that go to church. So I reached out to my wife, and I'm like, hey, you're going to, so she went to the Rock. I said, you going to service this week? And she goes, yeah. So we got to talking that week. We grabbed coffee. So when we met, she came up to me and she's like, gave me this hug. Never met her. We had just connected through Facebook.
Okay.
Gave me this hug, and I was like, ooh, that was a little much. Right? That was like, you know, I'm like trying to be over here, or the side hug.
Right.
And we laugh about it because her story is completely different. And I share this story, especially if people don't know my wife. They're like, come on, man, you slipped into her DMs. You know what you were doing. But to be honest with you, I mean, I'm telling you, that's where my heart was. But again, God had different plans. And looking back, I can honestly say it was like love at first sight. I just didn't know I was experiencing that because I never had.
Right.
Like, it's real, bro. Okay. It's real. But it took me being centered. And we talked about, you know, you get to an age where you know what you want, you know who you are,
right?
You know whose you are. And then just things started happening, right? So I had surrender because I could have easily sabotaged that relationship in the beginning.
Okay.
You know, I was the dude, and trust me, I had no, like, you know, where I'm perfect to be judging, but I would judge. All right. Like, if I sat down across the table from someone and I didn't like, you know, she dropped too many F-bombs, and I don't care if she was a dime, but if she dropped too many F-bombs, I would get turned off. If someone chewed with their mouth open, I'd get turned off, and I'm like, I'm out. You know, my friends would be like, are you nuts? Like, she was a dime. And I'm like, yeah, you know, she's just not for me. Right. So anyways, with my wife, we had at least some challenges in the beginning, and I could have easily walked away. And I just felt God saying, like, hold on a second, bro. Like, you pray for this.
Relax.
You pray for this, and that's how quick you're going to walk.
That's true.
So, you know, I was like, all right, well, let's just kind of roll with it. And I felt things were moving a little too fast for me. Right. Sometimes I can overthink my way out of things. And I had to learn. I had to learn and to be like, all right, God, I got to trust you on this. And if I'm going to, I have the saying, right? All in with OG. And I'm like, if I'm going to be all in, I'm going to be all in. And I'm just going to put my heart out there. I'm going to be vulnerable. And I did, you know, and here we are 8 years later, you know, 2 beautiful kids, married. And it's like, we look back and we laugh. Granted, my wife's story is different. her thing, she said, God told me, like, be ready to meet your husband, right? I was like, boy, that's, you would. I'm glad you didn't tell me that then, because I would have ran. I just said, man, this girl's crazy. But
That's
yeah,
why she hugged you so hard.
yeah, it was just she wears her heart on her sleeve, man.
That's good
She
though.
wears her, and I can respect that.
Mhm.
It doesn't always get delivered the right way, but I can respect that. And it's and I've learned to do that more, by the way.
Sure.
Because I was raised of like, as a man, don't show your emotions, don't be vulnerable. That's a sign of weakness, and that's an area that I actually struggle with in my previous relationship. Right, I was really good at solving problems in business, but in relationships, when it came to solving problems that involved emotion, I was shut down.
Well, that's a challenge because in the financial space we're in, like if let's just say someone's buying a house or doing some kind of financial decision, a lot of emotions get
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
and you as I guess you would say the advocate of the transaction, you got to stay calm for
absolutely.
everybody so that when things start going a little sideways, you're like, all right, let's focus back why you're doing the transaction. It's not happening like you wanted to, but we still can make it happen. We still can close.
Yeah.
And everyone, the realtors going crazy, the both realtors, the obviously the clients going crazy. Then you getting it from where you work, the place you work for, the underwriter or whatever
Yeah.
has some ridiculous request, and
Yeah.
you got to stay cool and be like,
Yeah.
all right, let me
Yeah.
read this email again. Let's figure out a way. Let me take a step back.
Yeah.
Woosah.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like, so when you get out of work and you go home, and now you got a problem with family or whatever, and everyone wants you to be the same calm one, and you're like, man, I don't even have an answer for this.
Yeah.
Like, how am I gonna figure this out?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hard to kind of turn it off sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. The more I got to understand, again, kind of my story and going back to even my childhood and how we were raised, and everything that came along with that, I realized that how that does show up later.
Hmm.
But the more I understood that and got out of the victim mentality and really understood, like, okay, how do I use this to my advantage? Wisdom, right? How do I use this to my advantage? I think for me, that's where life started changing for the better,
Okay.
right? Again, going back to being great at problem solving in business, everything you just said, I'm right there with you, man. I was a big advocate of, like, and it was more of an affirmation. It's like, hey, I spend more time managing personalities than I do files.
Right.
That was an affirmation for me to understand that this is also part of my job. If I can do this, then the transactions will come together. Right? Because people are going to bring their emotions to the table. Their emotions are valid. Unfortunately, sometimes they're controlled by their emotions. So I needed to control mine
Mm-hmm.
and being able to help them make educated decisions, not the emotional ones.
Right.
And that's where we become the advisor, right?
Right.
For me, I'm like, that's where the value comes into play. So then shifting gears, you go back outside of work. I'm like, why am I not doing this? And I would ask myself that question after I shut down, after I exploded, after, versus like, why am I having these conversations with myself after, right?
Right.
So then again, that's where I had to do some soul searching and really kind of getting an understanding and realizing where that came from. And as soon as and it was almost, granted, it was always work in progress, but the work began
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I understood where it was coming from. I'm like, I get it. Then I can start fixing it and correcting it, right? It's interesting because when I share some of the stories with friends that I've recently connected with that we've been able to go deep with, sometimes they're like, man, I can't even see that side of you because it's what was my weakness has become my strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Has become a strength of mine that I'm constantly polishing. So I have a lot of sympathy with people and I love, and I think they feel it, where they feel more open to be vulnerable with me. A lot of times it's men where we have a challenge, right? In being vulnerable with each other. I feel God just had me live through that so that I can grow through that to be able to be that light for him with other men. So that's a big calling right now. It's just to be able to not only sharpen each other, but being able to put things on the table and talk things through. Because a lot of times, if not all times, what we've gone through, our story, our testimony, that is our strength. Yeah. That is your truth. So you don't have to sell anyone outside of what other people are doing, what they think you should be doing. Speaking your truth, that is your strength. In that, you're going to inspire other people. In that, you're bringing not only the successes, but the challenges to light, and you're going to realize that that's the growth. And by bringing it to light, you're going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to grow. More people are going to pour into you, but we have to bring it to light. We have to talk about things more, right? Not stay there. You know what? We all get angry. We're all sinners at heart, right? But don't stay there, right? You get sad, don't stay there. You get depressed, hey, it's real. Just don't stay there.
Yeah, you got to pick yourself up when you fall.
Yeah. So then you got to understand, like, what are the things, who do I need to surround myself with? Who, if I'm feeling like that feeling, who am I going to call?
Right. Yeah,
right? Where I'm not going to be judged and be like, bro, maybe it's not even talking about it, right? Maybe it's like, you can call me and I'm going to be like, I know where he's going with this. Hey, bro, let's go on a drive. Let's go get a workout in.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's go get a workout and let's break the pattern.
That's true.
Because we have a tendency of going down a rabbit hole, right? And then it gets dark.
Yeah. It
can get dark. So it's as men, right? But yeah, just being able to kind of be each other's light and sharpen each other, right? There's nothing better than that, man.
You cold plunge?
I have. Okay. I'd like to do it more consistent. Dude, I'm all about it, man. I'm all about it. I used to do it back in, when I would train kickboxing and football, and I was granted, when I did it, I just thought it was recovery, not really understanding the long-term health benefits of it. Yeah. There's definitely short-term, but the long-term health benefits of that, and saunas, right? A big fan of saunas. So that has definitely been something that I've been more consistent with as far as like my health regimen. Working out and really focusing on the TLC as far as like the recovery, the stretching, right? Speaking of that,
stretch. Oh my God,
the stretching, man. We got to keep our muscles, and going through the surgeries and everything that I've gone through with my ankles, and it's taught me even more, right? That I've got to stretch. I got to stretch. I mean, dude, I'm 48, turning 49 next week. We're rolling up on 50.
Yeah,
and that's my attitude, by the way. Let's go. 50, yeah, let's go. Yeah. I know who I'm going to continue to grow into. That's what's exciting. Okay. I'm not ignorant to the fact that we're getting older, man, but I'm not getting old, right?
Right.
I don't have the attitude of, when I hear people, even when they hit their 30s, they think they're getting old. I'm like, bro, there's so much life. I think 40 is a good number for men. I think, we make all the mistakes and then we grow. And then 40 for me, from what I've seen, it was definitely for me a big turning point in my life. I'm excited for 50. I want to be like the best 50-year-old for me, right? And what that's going to look like. I want to feel good, like just everything, be the best version of myself. And I actually lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with it. I got so excited with the 50, man.
What you gonna do?
We, my wife and I, we're heading out to Orange County tomorrow. We love Orange County, man. It's just like a little, away from home. And yeah, we're heading out to Orange County and just spending the weekend there. So one nighter, but we're gonna leave really early in the morning, come back, and then my birthday is on the 20th, July 20th. And our church, The Rock, has their yearly marriage retreat. So it's cool, man, because, you're there with a bunch of other couples, different walks of life. Some of them are newlyweds. Some have been married 50 years. You hear all the stories, man. And you got couples there that are putting in the work, man. Putting in the work. So it's a marriage retreat. We're going to leave a day early. We leave on Thursday of next week through Sunday. And, we have fun, right? We go out, we have dinners, and we quadruple date, and you're just out, right? Just having a good time. But in the actual event, it's pretty cool, man. Sometimes we learn new things. Sometimes we hear things we already know, and that's most of it, what we already know. But we have to apply it. We have to be reminded to apply. conflict resolution is the number one, right? And then how to just understand each other's love languages. The most impactful thing of that retreat was our vows. At the end, we share our vows. Bro, there is not a dry eye in that room.
He started crying.
I love it, bro. I was that guy. I was like, trying to hold that in, and then I used to get embarrassed. But you know what, man? God softened my heart. I'm like, this is real.
You with your wife.
This is real. This is real, and I love it. When I was new to my walk, I'd go. I'm like, oh man, that's too churchy for me. I don't want to go. I don't want to be like, kumbaya, and I'm like, that's just not for me. Like, it's just not for me. But it's just people, man. We're just all people, right? Just, on fire for God and on fire for our marriages and our kids. And I'm like, bro, this is like the mega of like being inspired and motivated and sharpened. And I'm like, dude, this is it right here. It was bomb.
You've done it last 8 years?
Since we've been married. Even we skipped COVID, of course. But how many years has that been? 4 years? 4 years. We've done 4 years. It's hella hot. It's Palm Springs. You're like $120.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, like 98 degrees at night. But hey, we know what we're walking into, right? We know where we're going. Dress accordingly. But man, what a great way to celebrate my birthday every year, because it always falls on that week.
Okay.
To be able to go out there and do that. So man, something I'm very excited about. Again, 49, and then it's the grind to 50.
The grind.
Biddy. The big biddy.
Yeah,
man.
That's exciting stuff, because think about it, man. In the last 50 years, we've gone through wars. Freaking
I got scars to show it,
drug
man.
wars.
Yeah.
The different wars across the financial crashes, COVID.
Yeah.
Now they got just all the different issues with political and
9/11. There's been like tsunamis, earthquakes. I mean, bro, there's been. It's crazy, man. As you're saying that, I'm reflecting back. I'm like, that's a lot's happened.
Some stuff, man.
There's a lot's happened in the last 50 years.
We didn't go to Vietnam or the Korean War, but we've gone through some different kind of wars.
Yeah.
Now right now I feel like it's the red pill, blue pill, the alpha male versus the feminist type of war.
Yeah, bro.
It's a whole different ballgame.
I can be here a couple hours with you on that one. You know what I mean? And with that's part of my biggest motivation is being able to be filled so that I can pour into my kids. Right. Continue to be filled so that I can pour into my kids. I got a beautiful daughter, 4 years old, soon to be 5, going on 15. And my 2-year-old little stud. But I gotta, as a man, my wife's gonna play her role as the wife, the motherly figure. But for me as a man, it's really showing my son. It's like we're not just being parents to our son, but I got to show this little guy how to be a man and how to be a husband, right? How to be a father, and I can only do that by what I do, right? I got to be that influence and continue to pour into him and showing him, man, some of the simplest things that I don't see enough of today, like opening the door for a gal, scooting the chair out, who walks into the room first, all these things that I didn't know that were in me until later, because it's just my norm. It's second nature for me, right? Until some of the youth start pointing out, like, oh, like no one does this, and I'm like, who? What? Who's not? What? Why aren't people doing this anymore, right? From those simple things that are important to everything else that comes along with it, right? And teaching my kids how to not put them in a bubble, but teaching them how to make better decisions. They're going to make mistakes, and I have to allow them to make their own mistakes, but teaching them how to grow through that too, right? That's where the resiliency is going to come through in this world, because if we're in the world we're in now, I can't even imagine what things are going to look like in the next 10 to 20 years. And that's around the corner, man.
Next 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, dude, look how much has happened in the last 5.
Yeah.
It is nuts. So It's a big motivator to me. And, in that, again, that's why it goes right back to our ecosystem, right? Who are the people that we're around, so that I can continue to, get poured into as much as I'm going to pour out.
Right.
Because as people, right, we can only pour so much out. If we don't have something that's pouring into us, our cup is going to be empty.
True.
Right. So, and I'm fully aware of that. But yeah, my kids, as much as my wife, right, pouring into my wife as much as she can pour into me, and making sure that we continue to be better together. The biggest gift we can give our kids is a healthy marriage, not being married, a healthy marriage.
Right.
And that comes with showing our kids, like, hey, we argue, but I want them to see us argue.
Right.
But more importantly, how we argue, and even more important than that, how we come to resolution. Like, honey, babe, this is me talking to my daughter. Like, this is healthy. This is good stuff. This is how we learn.
Right.
Right. And they're observing. And we both have kids, Right. Our work doesn't show until 5-10 years later. 10 years later.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And dad, you don't get the same appreciation as the mom.
No.
Mother's Day and Father's Day.
Oh man,
not
come on.
The same.
Luckily, I'm a pretty simple guy, man.
I think as a man, you just know you're gonna not get.
Yeah, you're gonna get the socks or the tie.
It's like, man, thank you so much. I love you. Or get to the point where you're like, nah, don't give me nothing, because you just know.
Going back to, one of the things that I love about my wife. This is one of those many things, is she loves to celebrate.
Okay, that's cool.
Right? Like, her birthday is we were talking about this the other night. It's how some people say, oh, it's my birthday week or my birthday month. My wife is like, it's her birthday year. Whoa, right? So we're always celebrating my wife. But with that, I don't think I would celebrate like even my birthday or certain things or even holidays around the house.
Right.
When it's Christmas, it's Christmas. Yeah. When it's Easter, it's Easter. When it's, and I'm not that, it was not in me. Right. So the fact that my wife can bring that to our home and experience that to my kids and myself, right? Because I'm kind of that kid, right? Like, I didn't grow up with like that.
Right.
I love that, man, to be able to create those experiences with my kids. So, my wife, if it was up to my wife, she'd have this massive party for me. Right? Like, I'm the guy, I'm like, babe, she's like, what do you want? I'm like, me and you, chill. She doesn't like when I use the word chill. Let's just chill somewhere. Like, I'm good, man. It'd be some shorts, some flip flops, like my baseball cap, and I'm like, I'm good. Like, my wife's like, let's do Miami. Let's go to New York. Let's, it's all good though. I love it.
Probably stretches you to go to other spaces you would never go though.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you break, we're complete opposites.
Okay.
We are complete opposites. Our heart, our faith, everything is in the right spot. But as far as who we are, she is that. She pushes the envelope. I'm more of like structure, stay in my lane, like let's within reason, right?
Yeah.
So I also kind of like bring her back a little bit, right? Like healthy wise.
Yeah.
While at the same time, she helps me step out of my box, right? And I think that's the good thing about a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's a business or personal, is like, how do we complement each other, right? Like, you're gonna have your strengths, I'm gonna have mine, and in short, am I a better person when I'm around you? Do I like myself more when I'm around you? And I think if you can answer those two questions, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, or your buddy, or whoever you're around, if that is a yes and a yes, then those are people you need in your life, right? And then when we fall short, those are relationships that you fight for, right? Those are relationships that you fight for, not just your marriage, but even a friendship. Like, if we're gonna have arguments, like, you're still my bro,
right?
Like, we're gonna make it work.
Challenge,
right? Versus
disagree. A disagreement doesn't mean like I'm never want to talk to you
right
again. And that's where the world is getting to,
right?
Based on who you vote for, whatever.
Everyone's offended.
No, I can't talk to them. And it's like, bro, you don't agree on that subject, but 90% of tonight, you guys agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the deal here?
Yeah.
And that's where I think things need to change.
100%.
You know, like
There's been a lot of division, man. And we've talked about this where it's like, even just in politics, where it's you can have a conversation, have different views, but then we'd go grab a beer.
right,
Like, what happened? Like, it doesn't mean we just have different opinions,
right,
right? And you're gonna live your life, but hey, we love the same team. We love this. We love
Right.
working out. Like all these other things. We're not looking for the wedge. I hope things start to change for the better, so that it can bring us closer together and have a better understanding of what that looks like. And it does become about our country, not
Right.
ego base or other views on things, and really trying to find out ways for us to be better. And bringing it kind of back to people is that just, understanding that we're going to have different views. We don't necessarily have to agree,
right.
right? And that's okay.
And that like as bad as things can be in America, or how things are changing in America, we were having tacos at Tacos El Gordo last night. That shouldn't have been, because I'm trying to diet. But
yeah.
my friend was with me, and we're sitting there and we're having
Uh-huh.
tacos and we're talking, and he was just talking about things wrong with America, and I was like, yeah, with politics and stuff, some things aren't perfect, but I was like, still in this country, you and I are sitting here having tacos right now
Yeah.
at 10 o'clock at night, and we're safe. And there's girls walking the street, and nobody's trying to like do anything to them, or there were police around there. There's still things about the country that are really good, and there's still good people out there. There's more good than bad, and I think we kind of focus on the bad. They want everything 100%. If you look at they talk about the employment report, and if it's like not 100% of employment, it's a bad report. But there's countries where it's not even 15% employment. Unemployment is super high, and there's no opportunities. And like I love talking to immigrants, because they inspire me to work harder, and
Mhm.
to feel happy that I have the opportunity to be in this country. And I just wish more people had that mindset.
Man, you hit the nail on the head, man. There's no doubt there's challenges,
Right?
and I hope and I pray that it's a season,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we're gonna, as a country, we're gonna heal and we're gonna grow from. Um, but let's not lose sight of our blessings. Let's not lose sight of the fact, literally, that we're sitting here talking about this today. There are people from other countries that are 10 times worse, that are fighting. They're
Yeah.
risking their life just to come here. There is opportunity. I think there's, just like in our personal, there's always going to be things that need to be better.
Right.
There is no doubt, right? But let's not lose sight of, let's put in the work, let's vote, let's do what we have to do, but let's not let the worldly things affect who we are as individuals. The who's in office is not going to affect my household
Yeah.
and my
can't-
heart.
I mean, unless you let it, it can't.
It can consume you just like anything else.
Yeah. Like you
Just
can't-
like anything else, it can consume you. And if you allow it to, then that's what it's going to be.
Mhm.
Bringing it back to real estate, if you sit back and, and you're in traditional real estate and you're complaining how rates are too high and the market is this and the market is that, and that's where you're staying, guess what? You're going to see the results,
Right.
and those results are going to be zero. Or factual and say, yeah, look, there's challenges in the market. Here's what it is. I know for a fact that everyone's mindset is going to be stuck there. How do I use this to my advantage?
Right.
Right? Like, how do I become the light to those who do want to buy? How do I become that person, right, to help other people within this season? And when the market turns, you're just going to be that much more sharper.
Right.
There's that old quote, right? Attitude is a small thing that makes a big difference, right?
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing real residential and commercial now, right?
We've transitioned. We're fully private money. So
private
we
money
we
now.
focus on, we have an appetite from anything from your traditional fix and flip throughout the U.S. to ground up construction, bridge loans, to multifamily, commercial, big appetite for boutique hotels, apartment buildings. The ADU play here in San Diego is a big play. But even than that, right? I mean, you can deal, especially with some of these larger projects, you can deal with a lot of egos that kind of come into play. And
Oh yeah.
in that space is all about risk management. So for us, where we do spend the time running the numbers and underwriting the deal before we decide to go into business with people, we want to know who the person's going to be.
Yeah.
For the same reason, because we've all been in business long enough that when something doesn't go their way, which is going to happen, is that going to lead to a lawsuit? Is that going to lead to someone suing them? And then our money gets locked into those deals. That's not what we want. So it keeps us on our toes so that, we're setting our investor relationships up for success. We're not in a space where it's like, the traditional hard money where here's the money. If something goes wrong, we're going to foreclose on you. In short, right?
Right.
That's not what we're in. My way of looking at things as a private money lender is one business lending another business money to do business. In order to do business, there had to be success there, right? So having a common ground and having those conversations, if something doesn't make sense, they're hearing me and vice versa, so that they are set up so that we can continue to lend, move forward in growth and scale. We're not in a space of wanting to do business with everyone. We just want to do business with the right people and just go deep. That's the best way to control risk management, because if you have tons of investors coming through your door all the time, it's like dating.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know. You're going to give me the best version of you right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that's going to look like later, right?
We may not be together 8 years from now.
Right. And we have, right. So we have to have that intention. I think that's something that sets us apart a little bit. We've been pretty good at that in really kind of trying to filter and just protecting our space, and the right people are going to understand that. The right people are going to respect that. If someone's focus on rate and term, even though that is an important factor, but when it becomes your deciding factor, then that person sees absolutely no value in us and what we're able to do.
Right.
For the same reason, a lot of our strength is going to show up. Not necessarily it doesn't show up in the front end, but a lot of it's going to show on the back end. If and when challenges do come up, do you have your SEAL Team 6 around you that's going to have your back, right? And we lose sight of that. It's like everything's cool when we're at happy hour, right? Everything's fine, networking, right? But when it comes down to doing business, it's like, again, our character will always show, whether that's for the good or for the bad. You decide.
Yeah, because just like for residential lending, you could do deals with someone all the time, close all these deals, and then let's say you close 30 deals, and in that one deal, something goes sideways that isn't under your control, that person just turn on you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've made you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And now you're just going to treat me like I haven't done anything for you.
Yeah.
Haven't helped you keep your lights on. And you're really going to do this now?
Yeah.
And I'm like, over this one
deal
transaction. And that's the end of that relationship.
Yeah. That's and I've learned that if and when that happens, again, as long as, you said it, if it wasn't that person's fault, and if it is, you own it. And even then, by the way, because it can go the other way. If we're doing business and you made a mistake but we figure it out and we got through it, am I going to fire you? I'm like, no, man, you're still my guy. Right. We have a lot more stripes under our belt. Here's the beauty of it. That won't happen again.
True.
Right.
Yeah, let's say you forgot to do something and
I missed that. I missed that.
I had once where I didn't extend the rate, so it cost a bunch of money, and I had to, basically say to my manager it was my fault, and I thought I was gonna get fired, but didn't fire me. They're like saying, don't let it happen again. Yeah, it showed me how much money that the company lost. Yeah, and I'm like, so you see the importance of it. I never made that mistake again. Like I always made sure, hey, we're gonna lock, right? Yeah. And I'm like, lock in the rate. The first time is a mistake. The second time is a choice because you already know the consequence. Oh yeah. Right. So then that's the repeated offense and saying I'm sorry without change, without growth. That's manipulation. So there's that angle of it, right? But the one timer, like let's have
let's make different mistakes. Let's push ourselves. Just let's not keep making the same ones.
True.
Because if we're not making it, if there isn't any challenges and we're not making any mistakes, then here's my thing. We're not challenging ourselves enough. We're staying in this safe space. So there is that fine balance, right? But again, doing business with the right person is the person that's going to understand that, right? To push each other a little bit more for that growth.
Showing grace.
Showing grace,
like,
man. You got to have it. We're not perfect.
No.
Yeah, you're going to tell me you've never made mistakes. You better put that stone down. You know what I mean? Like, come on. You know, no. Been there. You know, I passing judgment on people, whether it's someone you've done business with. You know, we've all made some bad mistakes, some bad business mistakes, personal mistakes, bad business investments, you know, and it's we've all been there, man.
What you also do coaching too?
Yeah, so I'm part of a community. I was asked to be their private money coach. It's pretty interesting, man. Initially, my answer was no.
Yeah.
I did not want to deal with new investors. But then as the more I got to understand kind of the buy-in to that community, I'm like, man, these are people that got some skin in the game.
Right.
And then the more I got to understand who are those people, I got to understand the character.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily that they did not have experience, but I'm dealing with people that are in a stage of their life that have made certain decisions and reached a level of success and know how to make decisions. Some of these folks have executive positions, so they're about solving problems while looking for growth. So they may not have experience in the space of real estate fix and flipping, right?
Right.
But they have the character traits and the skill sets that can translate very well into the space. So that's where I spend a lot of my time is coaching up good people to be great in a new space. Some of them use it as a bucket for them to build real wealth. Nice. Or I should say they all really do. And then some of them just a career change. I've got people that, you know, retired from a executive position and, you know, don't want to go stagnant in not being fully retired, right? Yeah. And real estate, of course, is a beautiful space for that. Some cases, you know, a lot of these folks are making a lot more money in their later years with a lot less time. And you talk to them, by the way, after their first or second flip, you think they'd be doing this for 20 years. Okay. That's pretty cool, man. So yeah, I'm able to, even then, right? You know, Texas is heavy for us. Tennessee, Florida, North and South Dakota. We're pushing into Boston, Colorado, and of course, California. So yeah, you get to meet a lot of different people from walks of life, and you know, and it's cool that not only in the coaching, you know, a lot of the students off the coaching call, we're having more than one-on-one. You know, they're sharing their story. Okay, I love hearing that, man. Yeah, like how they got there. How did you get here? Right? How did you get to this class? Like what? And hearing that just keeps me hungry and young, man. And just like I just love hearing that stuff. So I'm getting fed just as much
as you're giving.
Yeah. So again, and I've noticed that, by the way, in life, when I spend more time putting out good, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost for selfish reasons because I'm getting so much more back. Yeah. So much more back. And I think if more people did that, they would experience the same thing.
I feel like people, because they're not out there working and giving, they focus on all the negative stuff, and then they're gossiping and doing all that. So then they'll ask me stuff, and I'm like, man, I didn't even know that happened today.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, this happened and that happened. Yeah. And you can't indulge so much into that. Like, you should be working on other stuff or trying to help people, and you won't. Your spirit won't feel so like down. You know
yeah, I mean, here's the thing, man. I don't care if it's real estate or whatever it is that we do. Mm-hmm. If you've got a good heart, you're good at what you do, then you've got a responsibility to impact as many people as possible. Right. That is a God-given gift, not to keep to yourself.
Right.
You got to impact as many people, and sometimes it's going to mean getting uncomfortable.
True.
Right. That sometimes mean getting vulnerable. That
Right.
sometimes mean you may fall to your knees,
Yeah.
right? But we have that responsibility that if you're good at what you do, why are you keeping that to yourself?
Yeah.
If
Don't
you're
be
good at,
selfish.
don't be selfish.
Right.
Give it out.
Right.
Give it out. I mean, it's the old idea of like the self-help book, right? How many people have if I gave you a book right now, right? And our books are like on our phones now, right?
Right.
If I handed you the book and I said, "Man, you read this book. This will give you all the answers you need. All the answers you need to be the best version of yourself, to be a multi-millionaire." How many if you gave it to 100 people in a room, how many millionaires do you think would come out of that room?
Shoot, if they read it, all of them should come out of that room.
Should.
Right.
Should.
Right.
But the studies show you're probably going to get one or two.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Maybe 10, right? The top 10%. Let's just say, let's be generous,
Okay.
right? Right. Out of 100 people, maybe 10.
Okay.
So it's the application of things, right? So, some people say, well, if I do things, people are going to, that can come from the jealous spirit, right?
Sure.
They're going to use I'm like, yeah, maybe they might even do it better than you.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that.
Right.
Right? The more we're putting out, the more we are growing. The more good we're putting out, the more we are growing. So we just got to do it more, and that's why I love what you guys do.
Yeah.
At the end of every month,
Right.
getting a community of people that are growing or want to grow, and like you share from all walks of life, all ages, just coming in, just good people, hungry to do good things. I love that.
Yeah, I mean that was the whole when Chris and Brandon came to me, I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, man, we wanted to be a community feel. When I moved here to San Diego, I didn't know one person, so
Yeah.
freaking out in Del Mar, working at that Wells Fargo branch, no realtor contacts, no freaking friends, no
Yeah.
nothing. I'm like, man, how am I gonna do this? My
Yeah.
expensive tripled,
Yeah.
and I don't know anybody. So
Yeah.
I went all through Rancho Santa Fe for a year, going to open houses, giving my business cards, doing all the stuff. And I got to meet a lot of realtors, but they were like, yeah, I got a guy already that I work
Mhm.
with, but you're nice. And they would always be like, take some extra cookies or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. And just basically kept going to networking events, kept trying to meet as many people as I could just to make a name for myself.
Yeah.
And over time, like I started to see, okay, going to University Club, going to this event,
Mhm.
going to YPN and ARIA and all the different stuff. And I started saying like, man, I kind of feel like I could do better events than some of the ones I'm going to.
Mhm.
So then I started hosting a thing called First Sunday at my house. I lived at the Ideal One Apartments, and when I moved in there, there wasn't very many people occupying. The place was probably like 10% occupied, but it's a beautiful
Mhm.
building, but it was in East Village, so there was like homeless all around.
Mhm.
But the rooftop was like,
Mhm.
man,
Perfect
prime.
for it. Yeah.
So I would ask the management of the building, I'm like, hey, can I throw a party up here? I'm like, yeah.
They're like, get some people in this building.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, you
Yeah.
can throw a party. And I was like, so do I have to reserve the space or whatever? Like, well, I think it was like $500 to reserve it, but if I opened up to the building, I didn't have to pay the fee.
Mhm.
So it would basically almost be like a block party for the building.
Yeah.
But then I could invite people from outside.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, and then you guys could talk to them if they want to live here. So that's how
Yes.
I got it going.
Smart.
So then I threw the first event, and maybe 10 people came. I was all
Mhm.
disappointed and stuff, and I'm like, man, I gotta turn this up somehow.
Yeah.
So literally, I would like DM people directly and say, hey, I'm having this party. You're welcome to come. There'll be free food,
Mhm.
free margaritas. We're gonna have a
I'll
DJ,
be there. Yeah.
like all this and that. And the next one got bigger. The next one got bigger. I think we had like the last one I had was probably like 75 people on this rooftop. And it's on my birthday too,
When's your birthday?
January 7th.
Okay.
So that and my friend came in from Arizona, and I remember we got on the roof and we took a photo of it, and that's kind of how things started going because you're inviting people to a free party, and then people would say no at first. And I thought it was the weirdest thing, and I'm like, why wouldn't they come to a free party with free food? I had a taco truck up there and everything. And then what started happening is I started going to other real estate events. Other people was like, man, I had such a good time. I guess it was people that were their peers or people they wanted to be around. So then they're like, hey, can I come to the next one? And I wouldn't be like, nah, I invited you. I was like, yeah, come to the next one. Hope you have a good time. And I just didn't take offense to someone telling me no, because maybe they don't know me, or maybe they think there was a motive or whatever. And then that's when it just clicked for me. I'm like, I could make any environment I want.
Yes.
If I just put the planning together, the work together, if I want to build this network, and then now it's 7 years from now, you know, people know the senator, people know who I am, but it didn't start that way. And now when I go to a room and all these people come speak to me, and someone that just meets me the first time, like, it's the funniest too, is you'll go in a place, and when you and I met, we immediately spoke and talked, and we were like here, but you'll go someplace and it's someone that thinks you're a nobody or whatever you want to call it. And then all of a sudden, whoever threw the event comes and gives you a hug or whatever. And then they're like, oh, who are you?
Yeah.
But they literally like just kind of like act like they didn't want to talk to you. So it's interesting with people's ego, how they.
Well, I think you set the tone, right? I mean, like you said, you went through these other events, and I get that. I mean, especially I remember being in traditional lending. You go up to a realtor and their intentions really, oh, here's another lender. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to meet you as a person. Like, like I don't need your business. Like, it's okay. There's that. And I'm like, isn't this supposed to be a networking event? Like, aren't we supposed to be talking?
Exactly.
Where you can set the tone. And I saw it to one of the events that I went to. It was like, hey, do you know this person? Like, you guys need to connect. Like, I was like, man, this is really cool.
Right.
Like, people, like, you have an event with good people doing good things that are being intentional with their time. That if we're going to come here, they're eager to either, finally have that belly to belly with people maybe they've been talking to over the phone, or meet new people, or people that are open to kind of sharing what they're doing. Like, here, here's what I'm doing. Here's what's working for me. Here's what didn't work for me. And not being like, well, what can you offer me? Right? As opposed to just constantly pouring into and it's funny because when I went, my wife knows this, that I went through a period where I did not go to any event. To me, it was just a waste of time. And then I started being more selective. So then I went to your event, and my wife was like, how was it? I go, you know what? It was actually really cool. I was there for an hour and a half, and it was so cool. And I met this guy, the senator, right? And man, we need to promote you to el presidente, right? Like, come on now. You're senator when you got here. You're el presidente. And I mean, you can't fake that.
Right.
You can't fake that. And that's what I was saying, like, just before we came on, like, man, I'm just excited to be there on the 25th, new spot. I'm seeing the growth, not just within the community, but within the individuals within the community. So obviously something's working, something good is happening within that community. And that's exciting to see.
No, the whole point of the community is, if you're like me, when I first came here, I wish they had something like this. They didn't.
Yeah.
I got uninvited to some of the the big things because I work for Wells Fargo or whatever. And I was like, wait, you can uninvite me? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Man, it gets dark. It could get dark out there, man.
I was like,
very clicky sometimes. And that's all good. Everyone's going to kind of have their own ecosystem, but the beauty of it, that we can control ours. We can have ours, right?
But that's when it clicked for me. I was like, bro, all the places you've been, all the people you met, you can make your own scene. Like, whatever, and anyone can do it, not just me. Anyone. If there's.
And guess what? I'm gonna keep the doors open. I'm not shutting the doors to anyone. Right? Like, you want to be part of this, you're more than welcome with open arms.
But if not, have a good attitude.
Yeah.
Don't come with
No. Open doors for those who want to be part of this, and that comes with a good attitude, a good heart, good intentions, doing good business, right? You don't want to start like burning people. But no, absolutely, man. That's the beauty of it. I love it, man. I'm excited to be there on the 25th.
Any before we close the episode, any events, announcements, anything you want to say to the community or to the world, I guess, 'cause it's going global?
Oh man, it's very simple. It's that old saying. You want to change the world, change yourself.
Okay.
Right. I think it's we need to bring it back to self. That can change your if you're at a job, a W-2 job, and maybe you're not don't have the luxury of changing.
Hmm.
Just change your approach, change your work, change what you're looking to do. Focus on self, your self walk, yourself, whether it's spiritually or not. That applies both in, your marriage, as a father, on all aspects of life. And the beauty of it that you have control. You have control to surrender to self and what you're looking to do, and continue to sharpen yourself and watch how things start to change around you.
I agree with you 1,000%, because no matter if you work at Starbucks or you have a big executive job, the person that works at Starbucks, you're making people's day if you do your job to the best of your capability, and you're with a corporation where you can learn how to get to that next level. So
Wherever you're at, be
yeah,
great.
no matter where you're at, try
Wherever
to
you're
be
at,
the
just
best
be
you
great.
can.
Yeah.
I agree with that, because everybody likes that waiter or bartender or whatever that gets you exactly what you need on time, quickly, and they get it.
Hmm.
Versus when you go to a place where their drinks are slow, the food is slow.
Hmm.
You're like, I love to eat here, but it takes so long, and like you got kids and
The
a wife.
experience.
You're like, yeah,
Mhm.
we're gonna go over here. We're out.
Yeah.
Like, even though the food is awesome, you
Yeah.
just don't want to deal with that bad service and slow. So yeah, if you're younger and you're trying to figure it out, that's one of the gems I would give you.
I want to just piggyback off of that. That a lot of times the youth, they think that in the space that they're in, like, hey, I want to do this in life, and in that space, whether you're that waiter, the server, whatever the case is, you don't realize this now, but those quote unquote little things, those character traits that you are developing in that space, good or bad, are going to show up in the bigger space.
That's
There's
true.
that old saying, if God can't trust you with the small things, he's not going to trust you with the big things.
That's
So
true.
just be great in wherever you're at, and you'll notice that that phase of your life is a phase that's going to show up in something greater.
And gems from the
Yeah,
OG.
yeah.
Well, that's a wrap for the episode. In the words of Dr. J, just chill till the next episode, and thanks so much for tuning in.
Let's go.
Bro, let's go. I liked it. I liked it.
Good talks, man.
Yeah.
Always good.